Hello, viewers of The Pioneer. I hope your day is going great and you're in a good health. As the Pioneer team, we continue to share with you the latest developments regarding the Russia-Ukraine war. Today, we are here with a remarkable development. The problems within the Russian armed forces is a subject we frequently emphasize in our reports. However, these problems are not being solved and are even increasing. According to the allegations, the lack of trust among the soldiers in the Russian army is so great that this situation negatively affects the fighting power of the army. Recently, the Russian armed forces faced an unexpected situation. Perhaps they were shaken by the biggest internal betrayal in their history. For the first time, the results of the Russian army's hasty recruitment procedures were clearly revealed, and after the astonishing events at the Russian headquarters, an investigation was immediately launched. A Russian soldier of the Ukrainian nationality carried out a surprising operation within the Russian army and fled to Ukraine after this operation. So what are the details on the subject? Let's take a look together. As the Pioneer, we continue to bring you developments regarding the Russia-Ukraine war, so don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so as not to miss our daily reports and explanations. I also read all of your comments on our videos, so please continue to share your ideas about our content in the comments with us, and tell us in the comments what content you would like to see on the Pioneer channel. Let's start if you're ready, the Pioneer reports. So one of the main agenda items of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine is the problems within the Russian armed forces. And these problems are increasing day by day and make the Russian army look more like a lawless gang than an organized unit. And all kinds of non-compliance with the military norms are harbored within the Russian armed forces. One might have expected the Russian army to make greater progress in a period when Ukraine lacked support, but this has not happened. This because the Russian army forces are not sufficiently qualified. And the ever-increasing losses of the Russian armed forces have been detailed in various reports. And this situation leads to a compulsory need for the Russian army to recruit new soldiers. However, it is known that there are almost no Russian citizens willing to do military service in Russia. Therefore, Russia needs another source of soldiers. In order to meet these needs, the Russian administration first secretly tried to bring in African mercenaries from the countries that it's considered as colonized. And however, these mercenaries did not yield the desired results. As the results of these mercenaries, the Russian army is now trying to meet its military needs from the people living in the occupied Ukrainian territories. However, there was an incredible story here too. In recent days, the events that took place in the headquarters of the Russian soldiers, who was originally from Ukraine, causes a great shock. This soldier, whose name was Yuri Gasurko, was there when Russia occupied Kharkiv, and according to the sources, he even lived for some time before the start of the war in the Belgorod region, which we know from the operations of the Free Russian Legion. When the occupation began, Galushko stayed in the Kharkiv for some time and was then forcibly conscripted by the Russian armed forces. This essentially meant that he was forced to fight against his own country. And according to the latest reports, the Russian armed forces launched a missile attack on Kharkiv region. After this attack, Galushko's mother, who still lives in Kharkiv, was paralyzed with fear. And this was the tripping point for Galushko. He already wanted to leave, but the tragedy of his mother's death fueled the fire of revenge even more. So he decided to act immediately. He was going to attack the headquarters, but how was he going to do this? This situation was going round and round in his mind. Perhaps he had already made his plan and now it was only a matter of execution. Galushko carefully planned each step and took it, and he had one chance and he had one to make the most of it. And in the silence of the headquarters, taking advantage of the deep sleep of the soldiers on duty, he scanned the surroundings step by step, and he took note of every detail and visualized every possible scenario in his mind. However, he knew that if he made a single mistake, everything could be turned upside down. So he decided to take a risk in order to get the weapons and ammunition he needed. One night, he slipped quietly into the ammunition depot from the shadows, and he proceeded patiently and carefully to achieve his goals. He stole the weapons and ammunition and carefully hid them somewhere. The next day, when the stolen materials were discovered, the confusion increased. However, it could not be determined who the thief was and where he hid while he had stealing. So this incident made it clear that the Russian armed forces were facing an unexpected vulnerability. The materials Galushko had been hidden were never found. However, they were last seen by him, and that was the key. Keeping his eyes open at all time, no one could locate the hidden materials until that morning. In recent days, 12 or 13 gunshots echoing from the Russian military headquarters have suddenly raised tensions in the region. However, these were not the typical sounds of the firefight. On the contrary, they began abruptly and ended abruptly. When the Russian soldiers arrived on the scene, they found 6 dead bodies. 6 Russian soldiers, including officers, were laying on the ground, dead. Investigations revealed that the deaths were not the results of the direct combat. Initially, however, it was unclear who or what had killed these soldiers. The details become clearer over time. The person who killed the 6 Russian soldiers was Yuri Galushko, who was also a member of the Russian armed forces. So according to the information obtained from the sources in the region, Galushko first executed the 6 Russian soldiers and then fired control shots to make sure. Galushko then managed to flee the scene, and the Russian authorities launched a large-scale search, initially believing that Galushko was in the Donetsk Autonomous Region. However, it was not possible to find Galushko. In response, a reward was offered for Galushko's captures, and posters with Galushko's photographs were put up in the Donetsk Autonomous Region. Unfortunately, Galushko could not be traced. Sources in the region report that the efforts to trace Galushko are now fruitless. Many investigation officials believe that Galushko may have fled to Ukraine, and this has created a new vulnerability within the Russian armed forces. For the Russian army, which forcibly conscripts Ukrainians, the defectors pose a potential threat. And however, since it is impossible to replace them, the Russian army cannot intervene in all of them. In order to identify these people, incidents such as Galushko case must occur. However, such incidents may cause more casualties to the Russian army. Sources in the region report that there is a great tension at the headquarters where 6 Russian soldiers were executed. All soldiers look at each other with suspicion. This suspicion may result in attacks even among the Russian citizen soldiers in the coming days, and this could lead to a serious atmosphere of mistrust within the army. So what do you think? Does the strengthening evidence that Galushko fled to Ukraine suggest that this possibility is strong? How likely do you think it is the similar incident will occur within the Russian army? And how realistic is the possibility of Galushko was a Ukrainian intelligence officer who infiltrated the Russian army? And could Galushko's escape show how weak the internal security mechanisms of the Russian army are? So you can specify it in the comment, because you know that I read and I care a lot about all of your comments.